Hello, I'm Mrs. Jansen, and today in our art, we're going to create a continuous line. The name of our art is called The Longest Line, and I'd like you to look closely at these three student examples. First, I'd like you to notice how different they are. I'd like you to remember that we all create art differently, and that's one of the best things about art. I'd like you to notice the interesting lines that you see in the background, that space behind, above, below, and in between these shapes. Each student artist used many types of lines in their artwork. Now I'd like you to look at the compositions. Composition refers to the arrangement of things in artwork. Notice how each of these student artists arranged the geometric shapes in their art. Now I'd like you to notice the interesting shapes inside each of these geometric shapes. The type of shapes that we see created by these lines are called organic shapes. These are shapes that have unpredictable edges. These shapes we often see in nature. Our first vocabulary word today is line, and line is an art element. It means the path of a point through space. Lines can be straight or wavy, thick or thin, long or short. These two images contain a lot of different lines, and we're going to review these together so that you can consider the lines that you'd like to use in your artwork today. Let's look at the image on the left first, and we see that straight horizontal line. Notice that the image on the right shows that straight line in a vertical, horizontal, and diagonal direction. Now let's look at the curved line. This might remind you of the curve of a rainbow. We know that the curve in the opposite direction looks a lot like the curve of a smile. Now I'd like you to think of those two curved lines combined to create a wavy line. Let's look at the zigzag line on the image on the left. Notice how this is made of diagonal lines, and the spaces in between the lines is the same. Now let's look at the images on the right. First, let's look at the zigzag line and notice that the spaces in between the lines changes. Now let's look at the mountain. We're looking at a wider space or larger space in between the lines that stays the same. When you look at the jagged zigzag line, you'll notice that these spaces do change, and the point that those diagonal lines meet appears to be narrower or taller than some of the other zigzag line examples. Today, when we look at the dotted line and the dashed line, I want you to know that we won't be using those in our artwork, but what I'd like you to know is that you can use them in different ways. When you look at the example on the left, you'll notice that the spaces in between the dotted and the dashed line stay the same. Now I'd like you to look at the example on the right. Notice how they've changed the space in between. Another line that we will not use today in our art is the spiral line. And I'd like you to notice that the spiral line on the left-hand image is drawn counterclockwise. We know that we start a spiral in the center and you leave your pencil point down and you draw and walk around with the line, moving it in the opposite direction of the hands on a clock, counterclockwise. If you look on the right, this spiral was drawn clockwise. Notice that when you start in the center, leave your pencil point down and walk it around. This line goes in the same direction as the hands on the clock. So notice how different these two spiral lines look. When you see the scallop line, I really want you to think of it as connected curved lines, like a smile. And when we look at the image on the right, there's some really interesting line combinations. We can look at the castle and the step up and down and know that we're really looking at vertical and horizontal lines. Let's look at the walk around and notice how this is a combination of a straight horizontal line and a curved line. And then we see the loop-de-loop, which is really a combination of curved lines. Our next vocabulary word is complementary colors. These are colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel. Let's look at the color wheel together. First, we'll look at the primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. We'll start with red, and when you look vertically across or down, you'll see its complement, green. Let's go to yellow. Let's follow diagonally across. You'll see its complement, it's violet or purple. Now let's look at blue. Let's follow diagonally across to the complement, it's orange. When you place complements next to each other, they both appear brighter. At the upper right, you can see the complementary color pairs, red and green, yellow and purple, and blue and orange. Please have your pencil and paper ready. We will be creating a work with a continuous line in the background. We'll also be using geometric shapes, the circle, triangle, square, and rectangle. You may choose to trace household items, or you may draw them freehand. If you are using a household item, make sure you ask your family's permission. You'll see my screen change so that we can draw together. Today we'll be working in portrait style. That means our paper will be vertical or the tall way. The first thing we're going to do is create our background, and we're going to use a continuous line. I want you to remember that you need to do your best not to pick up your pencil, but if you do pick up your pencil, it's okay. All you have to remember is to put it back down right where you left off. We're going to start from the left, and we're going to create a variety, different types of lines as we go from the left to the right. You'll keep your pencil down, go up, and then return to the left. You can use any of the styles that we looked at, except the dash, the dotted, the spiral. And you want to make sure that any line style you're using allows you to keep your pencil down. We're going to draw the background together, but here's what you need to know. We can all be drawing different types of lines. As I begin to draw, you're going to hear me talk about the lines that I'm drawing. I'm going to start with that loop-de-loop. And then I'm going to change to the castle. Now I'm going to change to that step up and down. And here you see a jagged or zigzag. Curved lines. And now I'm going to make my own style. Reminds me a little bit of puzzle pieces. Now I'm going to make the shark and some more jagged lines. So we'll be filling our entire page with different lines, doing your best not to pick up your pencil, but if you did, remember to put it back right where you left off. So you're going to see that we've all created a very different background. Everyone's would look very different. The next thing you're going to decide is the arrangement of the shapes. So go ahead, you may want to look at the lines that you have in your background first, and then decide how you're going to place your shape. As you trace the shape, do your best to keep your pencil down. Sometimes you can go around the shape in the opposite way. I'm going to trace mine a couple of times so I have a really dark line so that you can see it. All right, and next I'm going to use my crayon box to draw the rest of the shapes. I can use the edge of the box like a straight edge or a ruler. I think what's interesting is that everyone's going to arrange the shapes differently, and the lines within the shapes are going to look different. So notice how we leave spaces in between the shapes, and it's okay if one of your shapes goes off the page. So here you see an example, and the first thing I want you to notice is that I added color only inside each geometric shape, and I really noticed the interesting organic shapes that the lines created. I decided to show the complementary colors, the blue and the orange, the yellow and the purple, and the green and red. I also decided that I wanted to color one of the shape in multicolors. This is your artwork, and you get to decide how you'd like to add color to the shapes. You definitely want to color the shapes inside the geometric shapes first, and then if you choose to, you can go back with black crayon around each geometric shape, trace the lines inside the shape with black crayon, and you can trace all the pencil lines in the background. How you finish your artwork is up to you. I've enjoyed making art with you today, and I hope you've enjoyed creating a long continuous line, an interesting background, and an interesting arrangement or composition in your art. I look forward to making art with you again soon.